This video is brought to you by the fake sponsor, Adjusting Your Focus, something you should do.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Key is King. I'm Key, and I appreciate you for being here today. Today we're going to be reviewing episodes 2 and 3 of Season 1 of Mob Wives. And before I get into the video, just want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in to my first video, my little love child. I really do appreciate the support. Some people provided me some feedback that I will be applying. A few people mentioned that I was a little muted or turned down the last time, and that's because I was going through it prior to recording my video. So now that I'm kind of shaking the cobwebs off a little bit, we can get into some stuff. So where we pick up in episode 2 is Karen and Renee still outside of Carla's party, and they are just having a real moment. Karen essentially leaves it with, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not leaving. Renee's like, I never leave anywhere, I never have. So they're kind of donezo. At this point, Drita decides to kind of sneak her way outside to get Renee really started. She was going under the guise of helping Renee, but she really went there to kind of just gaslight and instigate Renee a little bit, which worked because it don't take much for Miss Renee, as we know. She's a little bit of a loose cannon. So Renee is like, okay, it worked. Drita riled her up. So Drita's like, I won't let the night end like this. The night can't end like this. I refuse to let it end. Mind you, Drita started the night. She was involved in the night. You are the reason the night is happening this way, my love. So Drita's talking about the night can't end like this, blah, 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 blah. Renee is like not having it at all. Say what you want about Renee. She might be a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but the woman's real. She called all of them out, and she was like, nah, all of you are fake, da-da-da-da-da. And so what does Drita do? Drita gets upset, of course, because she knows she's guilty. Once again, love you, Drita, but you are high-key the villain in this scenario. So Drita's pissed off. Now her and Renee are arguing. That's when we get the vein pop in, and then she's in Renee's face. And that is when Carla, like, separated them. But yeah, so Drita is going off as if she did not instigate the entire thing. So that's that. So Carla's party kind of wraps with them fighting. Renee's pissed. Great. The next day, they transition to Drita and Carla in the gym, hungover working out. And I love, like, their workouts. It looks so, like, dainty and, like, it's so hard to be pretty, right? So they're in the gym. Drita is apologizing to Carla because, like, things got crazy. But she's also talking a healthy amount of shit as she's apologizing. So that was that. They move on to Renee and AJ. And I'm going to probably say this 18 times throughout this show, in this review. But poor AJ. AJ is, I think, like 16 at this time, maybe. Renee is like reenacting the fight. She's like up and acting and like in his face to the point where he's like, okay, ma, I'm not Drita. First of all, the way they say Drita and like Carla, love it. I love it. And so he's reenacting. Renee's dropping F-bombs every 2 words. And so in the middle of this, Carla calls Renee. And the way Renee answers the phone has to be one of my favorite sayings in the show. She goes, hey Carla, what's doing? The term what's doing, 1 word, no space, is hilarious to me, so I just love that. But Carla's apologizing because she knows she played a part in it, and Renee is mad, and Renee and Carla kind of work their stuff out. But Renee is like, not feeling Drita. She got all like dickheadish with me. She wanted to fight and be all like macho, man, woman, lady. And so Renee's like, yeah, Carla, we can work it out. We have history. I know you. But like, she's like, Drita, I don't know about that one. And honestly, I don't blame her because when the reality of the situation is Drita orchestrated all of Karen going to Carla's party. So when you think about it, Renee's really not wrong. So I get where she's coming from for sure. But they move on into Drita and her children. And so, I know reality TV is reality TV, you're supposed to be showing your life, but every time people kind of use children for a plot line, it's kind of cringy, no matter what. So in this scene, Drita is with her daughters. I'm pretty sure they're doing homework, and so they're like waiting to call Lee in jail to do their homework with him, and I have mixed feelings about this. if your loved one or whoever is in jail is actually like smart and great, okay, cool. Maybe they do need help. Maybe they're great math. But like the idea of like a failed bank robber helping me with my homework, for me, speaking for me it doesn't really, I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe I'm being judgmental, but every time they call this man to like do homework, I'm just like, is that the best option? But it worked for them at the time, so that's what they're doing, and they're talking about kind of him being away and all that jazz. Next, we get the introduction of Junior. And Junior is Renee's ex-husband. They've been separated for 12 years, officially divorced for 2 at this point, and their story of meeting is just kind of wild. So, as we all know, Renee is the mafia princess. Her dad was like a really big deal in the mob. And so apparently Junior was in jail and started talking to Renee somehow, or they were already friends, but essentially told this woman that, hey, nobody else is going to date you because of who your dad is, so you might as well date me and be with me. Which, first of all, is wild, because if anybody ever approached me like that, I don't care what the situation is, I don't know if that's going to go well for you, but for Renee it worked. So I'm pretty sure she said she was 20 years old, which also makes sense because at 20, do you really know anything? But she got married to him a month after he got out of jail and really just bought the whole nobody will date you thing. And so I guess for Junior, good for you. But that's just wild to me. Like, I almost can't wrap my brain around it. But yeah, so that is our very first like official introduction to Junior, who will go on to play a major role in this show. If you know, you know, and we will definitely get into it. But from there, we move on to Karen and her cousin, who are kind of just chatting, talking about, really the scene was a filler scene, but it was talking about Karen and Renee's relationship and just how they have history, they've known each other since they were kids, and all this stuff. So they kind of break into that, but once again, filler scene, which moves on to another filler scene of Carla on the phone with her ex, or I don't know what the fuck they are at that point, but she's talking to her man in jail, and they're kind of just going through and detailing why they tell the kids that he's at work. And honestly, if I were Carla, I wouldn't want to tell them either. I think, just for the sense of like, you should be accountable to tell your children where you are. Like, at the end of the day, when their bubble gets burst, like, you know, you always have those moments as a kid where, like, the kind of fourth wall gets taken down and you're like, oh, this is, like, reality. I personally feel that whoever is responsible for said reality should be always delivering the message. Like, it's kind of really shitty to have, like, the innocent parent being, like, the bearer of bad news all the time. So, I get it. At first I was like, that's wild to tell your children that, but for that reason alone, I really do get it. I really do get it. And so after this, we move on to Drita going out to lunch with a family member. I really forget who the person was supposed to be. It doesn't matter. But Drita's going through kind of like her family history. And so Drita's Albanian is hell. Her whole family's Albanian. They marry Albanians. So Drita's dad really disowned her when she decided that she was going to take Lee seriously and be with him. She was saying that her dad said, don't even come to my grave when I die. Do you know how mad you have to be to tell your child not to even visit your grave when you're dead? Like, that is premeditated fuck you. I kind of live for that. And a fun fact, Drita's dad is was a soccer coach, and he was a soccer coach at the small commuter school that I went to in Brooklyn, New York, St. Francis. Not that I'm shouting them out because they don't deserve it, but a fact is a fact. So I always used to be like so geeked out. Oh my god, another like 6 degrees of separation between the tweets and that. I was like, oh my god, me and Drita are like soul ties. We're not. But I just found that story to be funny that Drita was saying how like everybody in her family married Albanian. She's the only one. But in turn, it kind of made her live a lonely life. So the trade-off was there. And I guess she chose the life that she wanted, so props to you, mama. Hey, it's me. So, quick little addition because, you know, technical difficulties. But there was a quick little scene where Renee was talking to AJ about his report card because he really messed up on it. But she was really emphasizing that, like, AJ needs his father and that she almost sounded like a caveman, but, like, he needs to get good grades so he can have a family. Because that directly correlates. But that's what this little scene was about.
it got chopped. So I was like, you know what? Let me just do a little voiceover. Let me fuck around with the editing because I'm learning. I'm getting it down. But yeah, a little quick addition.
So we move on to a conversation with Drita and Lee, which are very noteworthy for a lot of reasons. But Drita's kind of just like talking about their daughter. Lee's like, why don't you bring her to see me? And she's like, she doesn't like to go that far. She doesn't like to see you like that, which is valid. That's must be a hard decision to make, honestly, to like bring your kids to jail to visit their loved ones or not. But that's a conversation they're having. And so Drita kind of turns that conversation into, hey, like, when are you coming home? Like, how many years? And Lee is like not trying to give her an answer. He's like, 2 to 3 years maybe. Mind you, the man went away like 3 or 4 times in their marriage, has been home probably less than he's been at home for their marriage. Like, he pretty, God bless, he pretty much comes home and like has a kid and baby with her and then goes back to jail. So they're kind of talking about that, but Drita is the one that initiated the conversation, knowing that her man be on bullshit, and then when she gets the answer, an answer she does not like, what happens? All of a sudden she has like a stomach ache, she's nauseous, she can't talk about it. Nauseous, I think I said that. Okay. Anyway, so she's like, all of a sudden, she's like physically ill. And it's like, woman, A, you chose this, B, you know what it is, and C, why ask a question that's gonna make you nauseous? Like, that's the shit I'm talking about with Drita. It's just like, she low-key is doing, she's doing, and so that is how that conversation goes. She gets upset. She has to go. She has to hang up the phone now. Which transitions into her going out with Carla. And so she's pissed. She's asking, I think, the bartender, like, would you wait all these years? And the lady was like, no. Carla's like, no, nobody would do what you would do. And that was a red flag. So she's like sitting there. She's like plotting on boycotting, buying Lee the food and the Twinkies that he was requesting before. So she's like, I don't really know. But it's just like, okay, I guess that's one way to deal with it, but once again, how mad could you be at the life you chose, my love? And after we have the boycott of Lee's prison food, we transition to Renee and AJ at a little like boxing gym thing. And so I guess Junior's supposed to be coming because that's what dads do. And so they're waiting, and then it becomes very clear that Junior's not coming. Renee goes off. Like, you want to see her go off? Renee goes off. She goes outside in this little glass window that AJ's just watching her, and she is, like, just letting him have it, which he deserved, but might be a little plot twist in there. We'll see. But, so yeah, Renee's pissed. AJ is like, so I feel so bad watching AJ. He just literally internalizes so much. He feels so bad about shit, but like refuses to say it because he has to be like this strong. I mean, he comes from a bloodline of like mafia men, so I must imagine he really struggled with his emotions. But yeah. So after that, we transition to Renee in therapy, and I don't mean to laugh because therapy's not a joke, but Renee is just so intensely Renee. Like, I have to give her props. But she is like, in therapy, at one point she's like, I want to kill Junior. And her therapist was like, whoa. Because if you mean that, you gotta call the people. And Renee's like, I don't mean it. But, like, I wish sometimes. So she's in there being like, homicidal low-key. And her therapist is like, I got my eye on you. But she's kind of just really expressing her frustration with Junior and all that jazz. And then we transition to Karen and Drita going out to the club. And they're getting it. I must say Drita looks good. And what I do love about Drita is that if you've ever seen look at me, I can't even contain myself. If you've ever seen a Drita video, the girl can dance. Like, Drita has rhythm. She's like, so I just love them in the club getting it. She looked good. Karen looked like motherly, but she was getting it too. But they're in the club, Drita's getting drunk, she's mad at Lee, and she's like, oh my god, I'm so glad I can talk to you, Karen. You know, like when you get drunk, it starts, these are my confessions. So Drita's having an Usher moment in the club, she's having confessions, and she's so happy that she can do it. Karen is looking at her like, aren't you the bitch that married my ex-boyfriend and had kids with him? And Karen is like, alright, and she is eating Drita up in her confessional. And Drita's just so happy, and she has no idea that Karen's like, bitch, this is not cute. This is not cool. Like, we're having fun right now, but like, wait until we're sober. So I just found that to be very hilarious because they were on two sides of the coin in that situation. But then we end with the infamous Drita and Lee phone call. My God. When I tell you this is like great TV, in the unedited version goes in. So he calls wondering where his package is and all this stuff. She's like very short and like rigid. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? She's like, what's wrong with me? When the are you coming home? They start to call each other the most insane names. The C word got dropped 18 times. Drita's ripping the phone out of the wall, screaming. It was iconic for the times and for now. But that is how we close out that episode. Drita and Lee showing their toxic love to the world. And boy, was it good. Good.
I don't want to talk to you. I didn't even hear you.
I said, go yourself.
You too.
So let's move on to episode 3. We open with Drita and her friend getting pedicures. I guess her friend is one of the dance coaches of the girls. And so they're just talking about like her life with Lee. Drita said she moved like 11 times in her life due to all the criminal activity and arrest and all that stuff. Which is just wild to me. Like, just that constant upturn of everything. Like, God bless anybody who's been through that because it just seems like so much emotionally, you know? But she's kind of going through that type of just her life stuff. She's talking about how she really wants Lee to be the one to talk to the daughter about certain stuff or just kind of have that moment. So that was definitely, I don't know. You kind of feel bad, even though she chose it. Like, you feel bad. I don't know. It's weird. And then we move on to Karen meeting with a writing coach. And so Karen is writing her book, obviously. That's a main reason for the show happening, for, like, her involvement in the show. So she meets her writing coach, and her writing coach is really just kind of giving her tips on what she can do. They're kind of talking about her life. Karen was talking about how she became, like, a gangster bitch, essentially, after her dad went away. She was like, damn, like, my dad was a rat. He turned on the lifestyle, so I have to, like, involve myself in the lifestyle. She was selling drugs. She was doing shit. So once again, that element of Karen's the real G. She might be a real G. Like, she was really out here just living that life. But her writing coach kind of takes us all in and is like, hey, maybe you should go revisit the places from your childhood and like that kind of made you and that you'll be kind of referencing. And so Karen, I think, was like, sure, let's do that. Then we transition to Renee, the mafia princess herself, the princesa. I don't even know if I say that right, but that's how I say it, so Duolingo, don't come for me. But we transition to Renee, and she is going fur shopping as a mood boost, which, okay, girl, go off. Go off. That's officially like Renee's like unofficial slogan is go off, because that's what she does. But she's going fur shopping. She's like, fur just does everything. She's grown up in fur. Fur is like this symbol of status in the mafia, in other places, quite frankly. But so she's going fur shopping. She's trying them on. Not for nothing, it looked fun. I've never owned a fur, don't intend to, but Renee was living. And she had a line in there that literally took me out. She said, if you don't like wearing fur, you simply haven't arrived. The line, take my money. Chef's kiss. Perfect. Perfect. Then we move on to Karen visiting her childhood spots and her hangouts. She goes to an old neighborhood where her dad had a little small business that apparently the mob just ran out of, which is always so wild to me when I think about that. Like, these unassuming little places are just running like the city. There's an element that's just so cool about that to me. But Karen's visiting this old business. She's talking about how there was a two-way mirror in the business and she used to love sitting behind it and like watching people. Which just like the life of a mob kid honestly must have been like really fun in a way. You're not really involved in anything per se, but like you're just like experiencing, like pseudo-experiencing this stuff. Like a kid playing with a two-way mirror, what kid would not love that, you know? So in some ways it's like, it's really interesting how like the duality of this is very fucking wrong to it's like kind of cool. maybe that's why I'm like drawn to the mob. If I didn't say it already, I do have an obsession with the mob. I think the mob is a very interesting time in life. This is the whole thing. But Karen goes on, she's going through the neighborhood, she goes to her old home. She talks about how the cops were giving her dad props for buying that home because it was like on the freeway, it was on a corner, he could see people, he couldn't be surveillanced. So it's just interesting that they were living that life. She also talked about how she would like try to sneak in and out of her house, and one day her dad almost blew her face off because she was sneaking in the house at a crazy time. And he's like, you almost got murdered, go to bed. Like, I can't imagine. It sounds wild. It sounds wild.
So apparently on this day, my camera was allergic to AJ and Renee scenes. But to make a long story short, Renee checked in with AJ because she's like, yo, you are definitely depressed and like muted, and you're always making me the bad guy and taking it out on me. So she was checking in on him, and he was not trying to hear it. But she was like, I love you. I'm always here for you. Like, whatever. So they talked it out. They hugged it out. Ended up being a cute scene. But once again, hashtag poor AJ.
Then we move on to Drita and her kids talking about Lee. And so the oldest daughter is really the focus because the youngest daughter, I believe, is like 3 at the time, so she's not really going to be referenced or noteworthy in this type of conversation. But they move on to talk about Lee, and the daughter is expressing that she doesn't like to drive that far, and it's like a long wait, and then once they get there, they have to wait even more. And so Drita's like, she doesn't really believe that it's just the drive, that she just doesn't like it. But like, truthfully speaking, a 6-hour drive to wait like another hour or more to go visit somebody like through a glass, I don't think that's really appealing for most people. For many reasons, but I get it. So whether that's like a coached answer from her daughter, or if that's like how she really feels, girl, I get you. Because that is a lot. That is a lot. Especially for a kid, like that's the part that's like maybe as an adult you can kind of compartmentalize and like manage that better. But as a kid, man, I mean, I respect anybody's decision, but I wonder always, because especially with my background, which I'm sure I'll get into at some point on this channel, but it's interesting. But that's what they're talking about. And then it turns into them writing a letter to Lee. Drita's like, why don't you write a letter to Dad? Which, that fine line of like exploitation, real life for reality TV, but it's like, she knows the girl's going to start crying, and she starts crying and writing the letter, and then they're both crying, and it's so sad, but I get it. But sometimes I'm just like, it feels cringe sometimes, it really does. Yeah. So then we move on to a very big moment of the season, which is the Mafia bus. 127 people were pinched, as they say, in this mob bus, which is one of the biggest in history. I don't know if there's been one bigger, but it sends shockwaves through a few of the women, especially, if you couldn't guess it, Renee, the Mafia princess herself. We transition to Renee freaking out. She's watching the news, she's like losing her mind. At the same time, they're cutting back and forth to Drita watching it, which makes me think, are these like DVR'd? Are we like watching this in real time? Are cameras just happening to like... I want to really know sometimes the produced elements of it, which would take away the complete magic of reality TV. But like as a reality TV goer, you kind of just know what to watch for. I can always kind of pick out the produced part. So to me it feels produced, but either way, it's entertainment, right? So Renee is freaking out. Renee has multiple phones up to her ear. She's calling people. People are calling her. Doing all this with no information. She's like working herself up and like, I don't know. Poor AJ. Hashtag poor AJ. She's like yelling at AJ. AJ's like, I don't fucking know. But essentially I think what she's coming to realize is that Junior's kind of been MIA. Now there's a mob bus. Like, he must be arrested. Must be. Like, so she's freaking out. She has people calling her. Multiple phones. Drita's like, okay, I know I'm fighting with Renee or she's mad at me, but like, let me call her. Oh, I take that back. Before that even happens, Renee calls Carla because she's like, I need a friend. I don't know what to do. Like, please come help me. Baby, when I tell you Carla did not care at all. Renee was like, because you know Renee, she is shaky when she's upset. So she's like on the phone. She's like, Carla, please. And Carla's like, well, I'm at the gym. I gotta go take a shower. Like, maybe do my nails. Like, Carla's like I'll get to you when I get to you, my love. And Renee's like, oh, this bitch is not my friend. Like, for real. So, that happens. Then is when Drita calls. And she's like, you know, Renee, like, I know we're fighting. I know you're mad, but, like, this is serious. Like, are you okay? Renee's like, yeah, Drita, you know what? I could really use a friend. Like, I really need, I don't know what's going on. Blah, 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 blah. Drita's like, yeah, like, my mom, I call my mom, she's gonna come watch the kids. Drita's putting on her coat, I'm thinking she's okay. Mom must have maybe came through the garage, like, she's good. Drita puts on her coat to go smoke a cigarette. When I tell you the response was zero to Renee was having probably the worst moment of her life at the time, and everybody's like, oh, okay, sorry. And so Renee's like freaking out, nobody is rushing over. Fast forward to Carla, apparently has showered and come to the gym, is pulling up at Drita's house. I don't see no mom, Drita, they are chilling, talking about like, oh, did you hear? Did Renee call you? Did you talk to Renee? But this, once again, this is the part where I'm like, okay, is this produced? The producers tell them, hey, meet up first, have a little scene, and then we'll go to Renee's. Because in what world does somebody call you freaking out? You confirm that they talk to multiple of your friends and then you just go meet together first. Like, but once again, the producing element, because who shows up at Renee's house? Karen Gravano. It makes sense. So despite all of the fights and the beef, Karen still showed up in Renee's time of need. And she just knew to be there. Which changes the trajectory, excusez-moi, of the entire show. Because Renee was like, wow, you really came. You understand. Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier, when Renee was talking to Carla after they had made up, she was saying like, oh, Karen made a really good point. She said, if you can be okay with like my dad murdering people, but you're upset that he did the right thing by like snitching, and Renee, that really like stuck with Renee. So Karen showing up was like another break in Renee's like thought process of like, my dad's gonna disown me, be mad at me, like all this stuff. So like Karen showing up really meant something to Renee, and it was very clear, and it becomes very clear. But it was just hilarious. Prior to Karen showing up, sorry, I'm like doing a little one of these. Renee is yelling at AJ to the point where AJ's like, okay, I'm done with you, like I'm walking away. And so she goes from like screaming at him to being like, your father still loves me, I still deal with your father, I don't have bail money. AJ's like, okay. Renee's like, AJ, please talk to me, no, don't walk away from me. And AJ's like, nah, I'm leaving, get away from me. And Renee's like, AJ, please, maybe it's not bad. And you know, Renee does the shaky everything, it's the dramatique, the theatrique, like, and so she's like, maybe it's not bad, AJ, maybe it's not bad. And AJ goes, Ma, it's bad, face it, it's bad.
Don't walk away from me, please. AJ, please. Please, I won't cry. Please just talk to me for a minute.
I love it. So Karen comes over, she talks to Renee, she cools her down a bit. At this point, hours have passed because Drita and Carla get on the phone and they're like, oh, Renee, what's going on? Renee's like, bitches, it's been like 3 hours. Karen came, I'm fine, don't bother. Like, cause same. Me? 3 hours later after I called you crying? Oh baby, ice. You're on ice. So, what happens, of course? Drita gets mad. And the audacity that lives in Drita's bones, like you just had a whole 3-hour powwow with Carla about talking about Renee and wanting to be there instead of going there. And now you're mad that she doesn't want you to come like 3 hours later. I still don't see your mom, Drita. You ain't trying to leave. You ain't going nowhere. You're not going anywhere. Like, so Drita's mad yet again. Whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo, Drita. So Drita's mad once again. Whoop-de-doo, Drita. But she's really mad because she realized she's playing checkers and motherfuckers are playing chess around her. She thought she was doing something, inviting Karen to the party and doing all this stuff. Drita realized, oh, I'm about to be like flipped on a little bit. And yeah, you are. As the famous Nene Leakes said, you can't play, or you can never win when you're playing dirty. So Drita realized, she's like, oh shit, the tides are turning, things are happening. And they are. And that's what you get, babes. That's what you get. But we move on from Jada and her madness of her reality. And then we get into Karen on the phone with her brother. And they're just kind of reliving their memories. It's very filler, really not noteworthy. They're just kind of expressing stuff and talking on the phone. Good for them. We end with Renee and her therapy. And these are always a gold mine because Renee is just so raw and authentically her. But she's really going through the fact that, like, she's 40-something and has lived her life based off of a mindset and a morale that just does not meet her reality. Like, she's like, I was told who I was. Like, I really believe this. I really believe that I was untouchable. So it's amazing to see her be authentic, but it's just wild to see her be in that pain. Because not for nothing, I turned 30 this year, and I feel like the person I was up until 30, I don't want to know him. The great part's sure, but, like, I get it. So it's just, like, watching her be that vulnerable, watching her kind of talk about this stuff is always a gut punch in a way. Because Renee is just real as hell despite her craziness. But she's like, she doesn't matter. She's never mattered. It's always been about other people. And when you think about the stuff that she's shared, it makes sense. But that was the end of episode 3. I really hope you guys enjoyed my video. I can't wait to start putting some more content out. So please come back. Like, comment, subscribe, share, spread the word, spread the love. I look forward to it. I'll be looking to drop some of my other videos, which are Ooh Girl and Kiki 360. So please be on the lookout for those. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys come back for more. Alright, bye.